On May 14th, we have New England Fights 47, and that will be happening in Auburn, Maine. And I just so happen to be talking to somebody that is going to be fighting on that card. I am talking to Maine's own Glory, the serial killer Watson. Glory, very good to see you again. I am really excited we were able to do this. It's been like 90 days since I last saw your mug. How have you been?
I've been really good. Been training hard, and I ended up with COVID after my last fight. And then
I'm sure that was lovely.
It's great. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So fought through all that, and now just the end of camp and ready for this weekend.
And we are certainly going to talk about that. And if you're wondering why I called Glory that, we don't have time to backfill you all. You're going to have to go to episode 87. She already talked about all that. And it was like a solid 8 out of 10 joke. Go ahead and watch that episode. And then you can come back and laugh and be like, Tyler, that was mildly clever. But that's what I'm here for. That is exactly what I'm here for. Glory, you hit on something interesting, your camp. You just fought in February. Here we are in the beginning of May. That's tough to do. Like, just coming off a fight, you're not talking about taking a lot of time off, and you're just kind of going right back in the fire. I'm like, for this camp in particular, was there anything, without giving anything away, was there anything that you had to do differently? Like, was there more of an emphasis on like recovery? Was there more of an emphasis on like injury prevention, amongst other things, as opposed to like a quote unquote normal camp?
So actually, through my entire amateur career, I don't think I took more than 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4 in between camps. I think I had my first 7 fights over, I think 18 months, something like that. So very, very active. So I'm kind of accustomed to it. Mm-hmm. This camp, I was dealing with a couple like minor nagging, when they're not even injuries, just annoying things. So like, sure. You're like, that feels weird. I don't like that. So I ended up getting in with a physical therapist that I've been working with, and she's amazing. And I've always really tried to focus on recovery, but it is time consuming and expensive depending on if you see a chiropractor, a massage therapist, a physical therapist, all of these things. But I'm lucky that a lot of them choose to sponsor me.
Hey, absolutely. That's a very important part of the game. Your gym, the last time I peeped at it, looked like a Dexter Morgan serial killer lab. So has that changed now? Is your gym good to go? And in terms of this fight camp, were you able to get any work in with any gals or flyweight guys maybe?
So the gym is still not 100% done, but we have bathroom and the training area is done. So that's everything we need. So
yeah, absolutely.
Incrementally getting there, one piece at a time.
One piece at a time. Does it look like Dexter Morgan would still go there?
I mean,
a little bit. A little bit. Okay. You know what?
Not nearly as much. It'd be like it's like more like it's all, we have a lot of like natural wood look. So you get like natural wood and then half of it's plasticed off, and it's good.
I think I think it would be a little convenient, and it goes right into the theme of the last season. I don't know if you saw it or not.
But I didn't. I know I didn't. I watched the first couple seasons and I didn't finish it.
Oh, well, they brought Dexter back. This is like, well, anyway, I'll talk to you about this later, and we're not going to give away any spoilers. Watch Dexter, but the last season was pretty god awful, if I must say.
Oh no, that's the worst.
It was pretty bad. One of the things that is very interesting is just kind of your approach, like your gym and the relationship you have with your coaches. Like for a lot of people that are listening to this, that may not know, because I didn't really know about this part of the fight business until I started doing these shows. Very seldom will you see that fighters will have like a direct connect with the promotion. Typically, when matchups happen, there's negotiations that happen. Most of the time, people like Glory aren't really involved in that. Their coaches have a lot of those conversations. You might have some input, but there's a lot of things that happen kind of behind the scenes to set these up. When I look at your record and I look at the girls that you're fighting, you don't have an easy fight in there. every single one of these girls that you're fighting, they are the toughest girls that you could get at the stage that you are in your career. So it's really interesting. That's certainly the case for your next opponent. Can you talk a little bit about how this bout with Schlesinger came together?
So it kind of is the same thing how it's been for all of my matchups. I give complete control to my coach, and then the promoter of the NEF works really closely with my coach, and we got really lucky in getting Natalie to come up to us. And it can be really difficult to find females, to find small females, and to find females that are similar experience level. And that way it's not a really one-sided fight either way for me or for her. So that's the beauty of this fight, is it is pretty balanced in that regard. She had a really good amateur career. She's undefeated as a pro. So she is a really good prospect right now and a really good person for me to be fighting.
When I'm thinking about people with like comparable professional experience, I definitely think of her, and I'm like thinking to myself, like, this is one fucking fight I hope never happens. And then sure as shit it does. I was like dreading it. Like, it was one of those things I was like, I'm not gonna ever talk about this, so I never manifest it into existence. And then sure enough it happened, and I barfed all over the place, and then
the fight's gonna happen, you're gonna be doing this.
Yeah, pretty much. And the reason why I say that, for people who don't know, I'm actually pretty tight with Natalie. Her and I are good. I'm tight with Glory too. I don't want to see my friends fight, but you know what? It's the fight business. That is what we're doing. And it's just like playing football. You're getting out there and you're going to compete, but instead of like scoring touchdowns, you punch each other in the face. But it's cool. It's completely normal.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, it is absolutely completely normal. When I think of Natalie and I think of you, I think of two very fast, very strong fighters that fight very intelligently. What makes Natalie so good, in my opinion, is her ability to make adjustments. You'll see her get out of really bad situations and just kind of like start taking over. She has fought some very, very difficult girls that I know most of the girls that she fought, and I know how good they are as well. When you look at Natalie, and I'm sure you've scoped out maybe a couple of her fights, is there anything about her skill-wise that kind of stands out at you? Like, oh, wow, she's really good at like X, Y, or Z.
Not in particular. It's kind of the difficulty in doing that, I think, with doing it with any fighter, is you don't expect something. They're like, oh, she's a good striker, she's only going to strike, and then all of a sudden she takes you down. So you've been prepping this whole camp for a striking match, and that's not what you get. So really the biggest thing that I've got from all of her experience and everything is she's got a crazy gas tank. She can fight for 15 minutes and she's going to do it hard. So you have to give her props for that.
She is definitely somebody that has a lot of endurance. And when I think about endurance, I also think of you, and I specifically want to key in on the last fight that you just had, because there's a lot of things that you displayed that I didn't notice right away. I actually had to like go back and like rewatch them a couple of different times. I had to watch the same fight. I'm talking specifically against Mill Iron. I hope that's how you say her name. I don't know. But I know that she's a solid opponent. I've seen her name float out in the interwebs several times, so I know that she's a very talented fighter. When you and I spoke last, we talked about how good she was, and we talked about how much of a challenge this is going to be at the time. And there are a couple things that I saw you do, and if there's something in here that I'm saying that you want me to cut out, I can definitely do that. But you like went into a Muay Thai stance at the very beginning of the bout I saw. And for me, I was kind of thrown off by that. I was like, what's going on right now? Because usually people are really, really aggressive when you see stuff like that. Like, okay, she's about to like walk this girl to the cage and then try to clinch her up and like knee her. Like, certain things I expect to happen don't necessarily happen. And then you switched back and to like a regular, like a more traditional stance, and then you start piecing her up with combinations. It really kind of threw me off. And then you level changed. I had no idea when you were going to level change, and you just did. And I felt like every single time you got a takedown on your opponent, you were the first takedown, you went right into side control. And then the second one, you were already in half guard right away. So like, not only were you capitalizing on this, but as soon as it hit the ground, you're immediately in like an advantageous position right away. And I felt like you were able to pretty much dominate the fight and kind of do whatever it is that you wanted. When you look back at this fight, were there any key moments that kind of stick out at you? Like, I'm happy about I'm happy about these particular things.
So it's a lot of times I don't remember the things that I'm doing or even know the things that I'm doing in the moment. I look back and like, oh my gosh, that was cool. What I did, that was cool.
Right.
One of the things that sticks out the most was actually a mental piece that I remember. We were facing off and she threw a hook and it caught me and I saw a white light and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is bad. This is bad. So at that moment, I was like, I don't want this to be like my other fights. I don't want this to be the moment that changes this. It's now or never. And so put the smile on and started to really commit to a lot more of my shots. And that was when the tone of the fight changed.
The combos, I had to watch that 3-piece that you put on her. I want to say it was in the second. I could be wrong. But you landed a really slick uppercut. What was like an uppercut jab or something like that. It was really cool. I had to like watch it in slow motion 3 times because you're too fast and I'm too old to, I guess, see it in real time. But it looked really slick. Yeah, they're around here. Oh, they're here. I don't need them I don't need them when I'm like doing this, but like, you know, when I'm in like an intense sesh, I gotta bust out the specs. You unloaded this like combination on her. I thought it was really good. I have to say though, I think like one of my favorite parts of the fight was very, very subtle. Because immediately after that combination, I felt like this might sound kind of like a dickish thing to say, but we're friends and I'll say it anyway. I thought like the old version of you probably would have like pushed her away and like want to like unload on her more and utilize your striking, but you did the opposite. You go in for another punch, it doesn't land clean, or you miss, and then you're like, you know what, I'm already here, I might as well clinch her, and then bam, you tripped her and got her back down on the ground. And it's just these very subtle things that I see that you're doing. I think your decision making is sitting a lot better, and like you're willing to take advantage of whatever your opponent is going to give you.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge part about kind of what we talked about thinking someone's just going to strike or someone's just going to grapple. They do kind of mix in that way, and when you train that way and you learn that way, it makes it a lot easier to like be like, oh, look what's exposed, and then I can do that, because you have so many more options. It's not like you have option A and B. You have A, B, C, D, E, F, like 1,000,001 options that you can choose from.
Is fighting like getting interviewed for a job? And here's exactly what I mean by that. You go into a job interview, right? And you're like, oh shit, they're going to ask me all these questions. And like, you like go through your elevator speech of like why you're the greatest and why you're an expert at trigonometry or whatever it is that you're into, right? But then they don't ask you any of those questions. And you're like, well, shit, I just did all this work, like thinking about all these like intense things I would like envision myself going through. And like, none of them happened. So like, was there anything that you were preparing for in your last bout that you were like, I got to be ready for this, and then it just never ended up working out that way? Like whether you thought she was going to do something or if there was a part of your game plan that you just never even resorted to.
Not that I can really recall, like I said. And also I talk about this a lot because I think it's really important. My coach doesn't tell me my game plan.
Oh, okay.
It seems weird. He's always like, I just want you to go out and do what you're going to do. Sometimes he'll be like, I want you to focus a little bit more on striking, but if you take her down, great. But I think that allows for creativity. And I think that's when you get the most beautiful part of MMA, is when people are allowed to be creative. And it's not like, you cannot take this person down. This person is way too good on the ground. You're not going to be able to compete with them on the ground. So I want you to keep it standing. So it limits you in what you get to choose to do. And the creativity side means do whatever you want, whatever you see, do it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, keep going.
One of the things that's interesting about you is like, thus far in your career, you don't really get out of the first round very much. Like it's happened a few times in your AMI career, once or twice, in your pro career. You're like finishing these fights very, very soon. So when you have the chance to like get on the stool and like get instructions from your coach, is there like a method that works for you to receive feedback and then most importantly apply it while you're in the cage fighting?
That's a good question. No one's ever asked me that before, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm shit.
Yeah, we all know. We know. Okay, we know.
Ridiculous.
It's I can't really. I like stare right at him and I'm like, yep, and I'm just listening so intently, and then you always get the slap on the shoulder. You're not even tired. I'm like, yeah, nope, not at all.
Yeah, right. That would be me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm in the gym and I'm like just like running on a treadmill, right? And I get off it and I'm like tired, and then like my wife calls me and she's just like, "Hey, can you go to the store?" And like she like tells me all these things I need to do, and I'm just like, fuck off. Like I just like
I just ran so far. I can't.
I ran like 0.3 miles. Like God.
I hate running, so I get it.
I really don't like it. But the point I'm trying to make, and as awkwardly as possible, is I'm exerting myself. I'm tired. There's a lot of other things going in my mind, and you're giving me detailed instructions. Not all of it is going to stick up here. It's just not. And I feel like there are good approaches to take for coaches, and then bad. And one of the bad ones, at least one that would never work for me, is if I have like three of my coaches trying to talk to me at once, and they're all yelling at me. Like that would just, I would totally like not do well.
Yeah, my corners I've actually had two of the same corners throughout my camp. My third one kind of changes every once in a while. But very good working relationship. I have my cut man, and he doesn't really say much of anything. He might throw like one or two words in, but the whole time he's just like touching my face and fixing me up and all that stuff while coach is talking to me. So I'm literally just making constant eye contact with coach. And I'm also one of those people, I don't like the yelling thing.
Yeah.
Like someone yelling instructions. I'm like, can you say that a little nicer?
I get like flashbacks to like my dad yelling at me while I'm like holding the flashlight, like, oh God, like that would be terrible. Like I wouldn't do good at the yelling. Like, hold it steady. You're like, I'm trying, Dad.
I'm doing my best.
I'm doing my best.
But if you're like, hey, can you just hold that a little bit steadier? Oh my God, yeah, I would love to do that. Thanks.
Well, yeah, I think I would be like my son, like this. Like I would just keep asking that over and over and over again. That's like one of the things that I think is so critical and understated about mixed martial arts is as you level up, the level of competition also should be leveling up if you're planning your career out right. So the frequency in which you're going to go to the corner and talk about things as they're happening and things that you need to do different or adjustments that you need to make, that should be happening more and more often. Like you get like the UFC or Bellator or whatever at the very highest levels, like not all of these fights are ending like with like first round amazing knockouts. It doesn't happen. Like we're talking about like wars, the best of the world fight there, wars. And the degree, like the talent degree of separation is so minuscule, it's so small. Most of the time, the reason why people lose is they zigged instead of zagged. Or the other, you know what I mean? It's just one of those freak things where, the Tony Ferguson fight was a great example. He was doing great until he wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, the same thing happened, 2 weeks ago with Rob Font.
Yeah.
Rob Font was doing really, really well. If you watch, he was winning most of the fights most of the rounds until the last 30 seconds, and then he would get dropped. And that's the part that the judges see.
That is the part that the judges see. And like in terms of as you get ready to, like you're just basically getting started in your professional career, I'd imagine it's only going to be a limited amount of time before you ascend to the next level. By the time like you get to like these quote unquote big leagues, are there things that you hope or aspire that are different? Like specifically what I'm talking about is the scoring. If the scoring was like opened up, for you as a fighter, do you want to know what the scores are in between rounds or no?
So no, I don't.
Okay. You're the first one to ever tell me that, by the way.
Yes. Be different. I think it's the same thing with not necessarily wanting to know the game plan.
Okay.
I think I don't want to feel trapped by something. I don't want to be like, oh my gosh, I'm down 2 rounds. Like I have to go out and do this. And don't get me wrong, there is something amazing about that as well. But I feel like every single round should be fought like you're down a round.
I don't know. Like I can tell you, I'll say the same thing I always say when I give my 2 cents. At home, I don't want to know. Like I like the drama at the end, and I like to like scream and like pretend like I'm all important. Like when they get it wrong, like like I like to act like a big snob and stuff. But as a fighter, I don't know. It would be tough. I think if I were a coach, I'd want to know. And then if I were a coach, then be like, okay, I'll use my discretion on if I'm going to tell her what it is or not. But it'll be up to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I 100% agree with that, because there are going to be some fighters that are like, no, I want to know. I want to know right now. As soon as you walk over, I want you to tell me. But then there's going to be like me. I don't really want to know. I would.
Yeah, I don't know. At home, I don't want to know. If I'm a coach, I'd want to know. If I'm a fighter, I can't answer. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things.
Invicta does the open scoring.
They did. I could be fake news, and I certainly don't want to be fake news. But the last time I remember,
shouldn't tell lies.
the last time I remember, they had the scores on the tablet, and they would like you're against the cage, right? And then like they would like pop it over your head, and then your coach could like see the tablet, and then it would be up to him if they tell you or not.
And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing at all. I think it should be fighter preference.
Yeah, absolutely. Let the coach and fighter figure it out. Before I let you go, Glory, I have to ask. This is a big fight. You're fighting a very tough opponent, and you're fighting. There's in front of your hometown crowd. There's going to be a ton of people there. Like people go nuts when they see you fight. I know you're like a hometown favorite. So I have to ask, like, some people respond well to that type of environment. They level up. And this isn't the first time you fought on a big card in front of your home fans. At that same token, it can kind of be empowering for the person that's on the road, because it's like, I'm here. Nobody wants me to win. Nobody knows who I am. I'm the villain here. And some fighters do really well in that type of environment. So I have to ask, like, when you take into account like all the other distractions, let's just say, that are floating outside of the cage, what are some things that you're doing to just focus in on your opponent and just focus in on the task at hand and not let all that other stuff kind of get to you? Because that would be like kind of a mindfucky kind of thing, I would imagine.
Yep. So I actually don't even notice most of the time. This is really bad.
That would be a good thing. That's a good thing.
I notice on the walkout, because usually like everyone's in your peripheral vision. But all in all, when like the bell rings, I don't hear anything. Like I hear my coaches, and even then half the time I hear it and I want to do what? Because I can't hear it, half the things they're saying. But I like we've kind of talked about, it's you have a direction to go. It's you always fight like you're down in rounds, and I think it's really difficult to put on like horse blinders to everything else that's around. But I think that's really key to being successful, because there is so many outside influences, the roar of the crowd, the temperature in the venue, if your boyfriend or girlfriend is there, like all of that stuff. And I think that being able to separate those things and step straight forward into a match and viewing it just as that, and then afterwards the world comes back, I think that's what makes a superior athlete.
My biggest fear as a fighter isn't so much that I'd get like destroyed. It's more like somebody would say something funny in the crowd and I'd hear it, and like I would like want to laugh. Like, have you ever like thought of something really inappropriate, or somebody said something funny at like the worst time, and it's like it'd be like totally wrong, like you're at a wedding And like,
you just
yeah, like that is like my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Like somebody does or says something stupid, like, and my luck, I would see it, and I would like, I'd want to laugh. Like, do you ever think about weird shit like that? Or you will? I guess you will now.
Oh, of course I will. In the middle of the fight, I'm probably gonna burst out laughing. You're like, Tyler.
Like I always think to myself, like, okay, so this is terrible. This is terrible. But it's like the equivalent of maybe watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. But sometimes I watch Street Beefs, and there was this guy.
No judge.
I know it's like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I understand this, but there was this guy, and it was the funniest shit I've ever seen. He's like morbidly obese. We're talking about a 450-pound dude who's watching the fight, and there are two guys that are grappling. Like, one's got like top control on the other, but it's like they're grappling, right? And the guy, because Street Beefs is such a shit show, the guy is like literally like 2 feet away from all this action, right? He has got like, this guy, like, it was like America personified. He had like a big bag of like Cheetos. He's got like this like big gulp thing of soda, and he's just like looking at him mindlessly, drinking his drink and stuffing his face with like Cheetos. The Cheeto dust is going everywhere. How do you not see that and laugh?
How do you not look up and laugh?
It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. I liked it so much. And I actually did a show with one of the guys that was actually fighting in Street Beefs at the time. He's since moved on to the amateur, like the legit amateur scene. And I photoshopped my logo on the fat guy's head, and then I left the rest of it as is. And I was like, man, that's freaking fantastic. That guy would probably sue me, but I had to tell you that story, and you had to know.
Oh my god, yeah, that is one of those things that I don't even know if I would laugh. I'd look up and be like, what are you doing? Why are you so close to me?
I absolutely would laugh, I think. Like, could you imagine like the Cheeto dust is like getting into the cage? Or he like feeds you like your flipper or something like that. Like, I'm looking at this, I'm just like, what is this?
If I was against the cage and someone tried to feed me a Cheeto, I would take it.
I definitely take it. I think you have to. It's like, like somebody saying like, hey, want to shake my hand? It's like, well, not really, but I guess I kind of have to.
Yeah, right. I guess I'm in.
I guess I'm in. So, I was just thinking about like, when I go to one of your fights, I'll have to like do something absurd one day to try to like make you laugh. But maybe I'll do it after like, like when you're waiting for the decision.
If you don't show up in like a full-size Cheeto outfit, I'm gonna be pissed.
Or a banana? What about that? Is that passable?
Yep, that's good. I'll take that. I'll take that.
All right, so we counter negotiated for the banana. I will do something absurd. I think I'm definitely good for that. And Glory, before I let you go, walkout songs. Would you ever entertain the idea of like something kind of funny as a walkout song and not serious?
So actually my walkout song, I went to the movies right before my first amateur fight, and I saw the new Tomb Raider. They did the remake of Tomb Raider. I can't remember what the girl's name is. This is, what's it, 4 years ago?
Oh, I didn't even know they remade it.
Yep, it's some, I can't remember what else she's in. She's a little tiny brunette thing, Tomb Raider style. Gotcha. But it was in the end credits, and the song came on. I was like, I like this. I like it. So it's been my walkout song since the beginning.
Well, now I'm intrigued.
And the cool thing is, she's not a huge artist. It's Kay Flay, and she, like, I know that I had someone do a video montage thing, and they actually messaged her and asked for the rights to use the music, and she approved it. So it was really cool because she's a smaller artist.
So for me, my walkout song in this,
yes, let's hear it. I'm ready.
I think I'd walk out to Thriller. I do.
I'm in.
Michael Jackson Thriller.
You have to like do the dance on the way out, though.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. I'd come out with like the werewolf head on or some shit like that.
Yes.
With the red jacket. I would. I would go for MJ. And I told one of my friends who was fighting on a Bellator card. He ended up disappointing me, but I was like, dude, you gotta walk out to something cool. And I gave him a list of like really uncool songs. But I'm like, but they're uncool, but they're cool because they're uncool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, one
I
of
love
those. And I think I don't know exactly what he did because it wasn't televised, and they'll probably lie to me anyway. So, I'm just just saying, there's like these uncharacteristic things. Like for you to catch people off guard, like you should really consider something like Cannibal Corpse, or just something really off brand for you to just keep people guessing. Swedish death metal, anything like that would be really, really good. Guar, Slayer, like that type of stuff. It like no one would associate that with you. Think about it.
Definitely
There's still
not.
time. There's still time.
So I know this a commentator that he was I think he was just watching fights one time, but he heard someone's walkout song and he's like, it sounded like devil music. I did not like it. He's like, it made me so uncomfortable.
Oh, now you definitely have to do it.
Yeah, just for him. Just for him.
Some Swedish death metal. I think that would be fantastic. I have some things. I'll pull up some things on my Spotify list. I'll send them to you. We'll set you off in the right direction. Glory, before I let you go, I want you to go ahead and shout out whoever it is you need to shout out, whoever it is that's paying your bills that you need to talk about. Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay, so the easiest way to do this is to say my big broad thank you. So thank you to absolutely every single one of my sponsors, from my trade of service up to my biggest monetary sponsors. This would be completely impossible without you guys. The way that I am training and building my career would be absolutely impossible without the sponsors that I have. The gyms I've been training at, I have to obviously say thank you to them and all of the training partners that I have. I've trained at 3 or 4 different gyms during this camp, and I travel 3 times a week to train with these other people. And I just am incredibly lucky that these gyms have opened their doors to me and to my coach as well. So very, very lucky. And instead of listing everyone off individually, I'm going to comment on the post and tag every single one so they get the credit they deserve.
Bam. So there we go. We work smarter, not harder. Mom's Basement MMA. What would you expect? Of course, we're lazy as shit. Anyway.
What? No. Okay, you know why? It is past 7:30 at night, so I should be asleep.
Past 7:30 at night, and appreciate your time. Glory, the serial killer, Watson. Thank you for your time. Always a pleasure. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you so much, Tyler.